Yeah. So let's start things out. I'll have you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, who you are.
Well, hi guys, and I'm first off, I'm so honored to be on your podcast, Daniel. Like, this is such a great connection, and I'm really excited to be here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Celia Cavalli. I live in Orlando, Florida. I've actually lived around the country a bit. So I started off in Minnesota, grew up in Minnesota, and then moved to the fabulous Las Vegas and the land of twinkling lights, and was a trainer there, and ended up moving to California, where I did online marketing. And then I moved to Indiana to meet my husband, and met my husband within 6 months. It was like a personal mission of mine. And I just like Midwestern guys. So that was like just the thing. And then we moved to Orlando. Like I knew that I didn't want to stay in Indiana. I'm not a Midwestern person by nature. Like as a kid, we would travel a lot. Like we'd go to New York a lot. My family's not from the Midwest. Like they're from the East Coast and the West Coast. They're from New York and from California. And so growing up, we traveled a lot. So I got to see a lot of cultures and just a lot of diversity. And for me, the Midwest was just kind of like too much cornfield, too much cows. And the irony is that we moved to Orlando and I live in a cow field. So it's a
Wow.
newerly developed part of Orlando, but I love the weather. I'm definitely a tropical girl at heart. I like a year round tan. I like to have my sunroof open. I used to have a convertible and I love to have the top down. And for me, it's just a way of life. Like it just makes me so happy. Like I feel like I'm on vacation every day of my life.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of people have that kind of like paradise kind of dream a little bit about them, whether they, wherever they live.
So true. I think
So,
like it makes such a big difference too, like in your mental state. Like it's good for the soul to have some sunshine.
oh yeah, definitely. Like I was watching a show a while back. I can't remember what it was called, but it was basically like they take these people and show them different houses around like the islands, and it's just they pick a house and it's like, oh, this is where we're moving, and it's just like watching that show just made me want to do that so bad.
Were you so inspired?
I
You're
was
like,
I was like, I don't even care if it's a half of a house. I just want to like live on the beach, catching whatever fish and crabs and just like growing out my beard. But anyway, yeah. So you talked about moving around a lot and how that kind of shaped who you are now. Like, what was the reason that you moved around so much as a kid?
not as a kid, it was as an adult. So as a kid, we traveled a lot just because, we had family all over. And I think my heart was always kind of like nomadic in a way. It's kind of like I wanted to travel, I wanted to have new experiences, I wanted to meet new people. And um like I love going to a new place. Like I like to adventure, I like to explore. And for me, it was kind of like I got to adulthood and I was really unhappy living in Minnesota, and it was really cold. And I remember there was one winter, I was working three jobs at the time, and I was coming back from my bartending job, or I was doing promotions one night. It was a liquor promotion at a cowboy bar. People will know what it is in Uptown, or was it Uptown or was it St. Louis Park? St. Louis Park, Minnesota. And I was driving back to Bloomington, and I was sliding on this black ice, and I was just like white knuckling it the whole way home. And I was just like cringing, like I'm gonna get into an accident. I'm so scared. And I saw a car accident right in front of my eyes. Someone blew through the red light because they couldn't stop, and they hit this semi truck. And then it was like all these cars piling up. And I was just like, I need to get out of here. And so spring came, and I was starting to make plans in my head, like, I'm just gonna do it. And everyone's like, you're crazy. Like, oh my gosh, what if it doesn't work? And I'm like, then I just come back here, like I moved back home. But home never felt like home for me. So like growing up, it was like my family, it was just my immediate family there, and they don't even live there anymore. So it's like we weren't ever tethered to the Minnesota thing. It was like we didn't own a cabin, we didn't wear flannel. And so it just wasn't like it was never like my family fit in with the whole Minnesota thing. I think it was a very mismatched vibe. And I love my friends from Minnesota. It's just it for me, I needed something different. Like I'm more of a coastal girl. Like when I moved to Nevada, I loved the mountains. I loved going to the ocean. So I would drive to California, and my family was there. I got to see my grandma and spend a lot of time with her before she passed away, and so it was like this whole thing where, I wanted to be close to my extended family and I wanted to create memories with them while they're still here because 'cause they're a lot older than I am. Like, my parents had me when they were way older. And then I also wanted to just see the world. So for me, it was just a good move. Like, it was just a good push out of the nest. Like, I needed that.
What do you think? Like you said, it was kind of like a car wreck that maybe jump started or like really got you going. But was there another like specific thing that was like, this is the final straw where, okay, I said I'm doing it, but now I'm actually going to go do this thing?
That's an interesting question. That was the final straw. Like, I was like, never, I'm not living through another winter. I remember that was such a motivator. But really, I think what it was at the moment, there really wasn't, I had hit like the ceiling of what I could do in Minnesota. And it was kind of just like, I felt like I was cycling Groundhog Day. I went to Target and I'd see 20 people I knew. And it just felt like it was like every single day just felt like the same situation over and over and over again. And for me, I'm a creature of non-habit. Like, I don't do well with continual habits. Like, so I do real estate. And for me, I can go to new neighborhoods every day. I can control my work environment and I could do pretty much anything. I could work from anywhere. But if I were to work a 9 to 5 job, I would get so bored. Like, when I worked for Tiffany and Company, I would drive different ways every day or try to just see different things. I needed a different experience every day. And I think that's why I liked it in a way, was because the interactions with different humans and learning and growing in that way. But even then I felt capped there. I felt like, I just needed more. Like, I desired like a more expansive experience. Like, I just felt like this can't be it. These four walls, like that I'm contained inside are just, I just felt like I needed something new, like something
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. I think that's interesting because, like, I think a lot of people find that or have that somewhere inside them and then they take a vacation and they come back and it's like kind of
Mm.
good for a time. So it seems like you kind of take that to the next level, even, you have that even like higher want of change and of difference, going on.
I've taken so many risks in my life. Like, I feel like I just jump all in on, like, if I'm feeling something, I know that not a lot, you can't really lose I mean, you can, but you can't. But if you don't try, you're losing a lot. Does that make sense? So it's like, I
Yeah.
know deep down, like, that the risk may be high, but what's the worst that can happen? Like, what is the absolute worst that can happen? And I think people don't rely, or they don't realize how amazing they are. They don't realize how resourceful they are. They don't allow themselves to be in that resourcefulness to where I can figure it out. I always knew that about myself. I was like, I'm very strong mentally and I can figure it out. So I'll figure it out and I'll just keep figuring it out. And I just kind of have gone through life like that. Like, I'll just figure it out. Like, when the time comes or if something comes up, there's Google, there's, the internet, there's so much figure outableness. Like, and I've always found that in, like, even hard times, like when something hard comes up, there's always this magical thing that happens where someone will pop up and they'll be like, "Hey, I have this opportunity," or, "Hey, I have this rental you should maybe move into," or whatever it may be. It's like there's always just been, if you put yourself out there, I feel like, and you're vulnerable, then people will come through for you. So it's just been a thing where I'm like, not gonna worry about it. I'm just gonna take that leap and see what happens.
Yeah, like you say, it's like people always will like question somebody who's trying to do something different.
Yeah.
And I feel like they never question their own reasons for doing things the way everybody else does them.
That's really interesting. And that's so true. It's really true. Like,
Like I think the
we
thing that scares people the most is not necessarily like the uncertainty of things, but like it's like a combination of uncertainty and like being a little bit different, because then when you're different, you get kind of like called out for it. Like you make a mistake. Like if you get, let's just say you follow the path that people expect you to take and you fail. Well, people aren't gonna be like, oh, look, but you did this the wrong way, because that's the way they're doing it too. It's like, oh, it's chalked up to bad luck or it's chalked up to something different. So I think a lot of times it's kind of like that feel that fear to kind of go against the status quo in a way, just to please other people, kind of.
Oh my god, I talked about that with a friend this morning, and we were talking about how we're actually so much more animalistic than we realize. Like, we have this subconscious brain that's so hardwired like an animal. It's, like, ridiculous, and you could look at this in, like, every single aspect, but we're pack animals by nature, and we want that acceptance, we want that validation, we want that love, and we're seeking that from the people around us. But what if the people around us are crabs in a bucket and they're pulling us down? Or what if there's more for us? Like, what if there's a next level of group of people that we can elevate to and be surrounded by and move into, you know? So it's like, I think we're so scared to lose the friends we currently have, or we're so scared to do, you know, step outside of the box, like you were saying. Like, people are like, that's weird. Like, why would that person do that? Or, it's a thing where we're going against the grain, and it's like people may not like us, and that can scare us into just staying the same forever. But then it's like, what kind of life is that? Like, do you
Yeah.
really desire that? Like, so that's really interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a challenge too, because a lot of people are, maybe have those thoughts and then second guessing themselves on, oh, is it just like is it just this need to get away, or is it just this need to, how can I kind of fill this void without, going too kind of far out of that box in a way, maybe I'll be, pick up a new hobby, or I'll do something different other than, what you truly want. You kind of try to fill those voids with different kind of placeholders, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, can you imagine if everyone just, like, went for what they truly want? Like,
It'd
how
be it
different.
definitely would be a different, crazily different world. I feel like I mean, the whole world would just be different. The a lot of times, like, in a weird way, the structures that we have in place to, like, do what we want are only that way because certain people don't do what they want.
Yeah,
If, like,
that's so true.
if the infrastructure wasn't there, a lot of people probably dislike their jobs, but if they didn't do them, even though they dislike them, we wouldn't have the infrastructure to be, have this opportunity. So it's kind of a double-edged sword in a way, really.
It's true. It's very true. I mean, I don't know. I wonder if there's, like, a way around that. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe people.
It would almost be like a video game in a way, where people are just, like, kind of traveling around with no, like, specific, like, if anybody's played Grand Theft Auto, like, they're just people walking the streets, and they're not going anywhere. They're just like characters in this game, and they're just like, walking on the sidewalk. And then there's other people, like, driving a car. Like, that would be kind of be the way it is. Like, nobody's actually necessarily a part. It's like we're all a part of each other's life, but we're not a part of this, like, bigger mission, like single mission, I think, is kind of what we're programmed to be on.
So you think that people would not be, like, connected, or.
No, I think we would be, like, personally, we'd be connected, but, like, we wouldn't be connected on this mission of, like, we all, like, kind of go to school, then we all kind of go to college, or maybe not, then we get a job, and that, like, you might become a, construction worker, you might become, like, a tax person, you might become, so we're all becoming kind of like part of this bigger system that makes the whole thing work. So, like, if we all, like, really did follow our dreams, which would be good, but then in a way it's like, if everybody wanted to, you know become, famous, or become a celebrity, or become, a singer, if people wanted to do whatever, like, would the infrastructure be in place to actually allow us all to do that? So it's kind of like an alternate, timeline of humanity in a way.
The beauty of that, Daniel, is that no two people are alike, and I know so many people who would hate being famous, but they like
Y-
to create. And
Right.
then there's the people who are naturally gifted at, like, IT, and then there's the people who, love gaming, and then there's the people who like acting, like, I don't I think things would settle, like, they'd shuffle and then settle into this, like, set place. Like, I think the hard thing would be finding someone to clean toilets, or, those would be the hard
Yeah.
things, but I think that the world would be a much different place, and I think a lot of people would be super, super happy, and I think a lot of people would stick with the jobs that they're with if they're happy in it, or they would do it a different way or something like that. Like, if they were able to choose how they got to make an income, I think that maybe some people would switch up what they're doing, but I know a lot of people who are very happy in their field, you know?
Yeah, I think it's interesting too how we like tie this idea of happiness into the job we're doing. Not that that's necessarily good or bad. It's just I think it's interesting how, the first thing we go to when we feel unhappy is like, oh, do you like ask somebody, how do you, how's your job going? Or do you like what you do? Or, what would you be doing if you weren't doing this? Like if you were, you know what I'm saying? Like how we tie
Yeah.
happiness so like firstly into your job or your career.
I literally just did a live stream on this where we're human beings, not human doings. Like, we aren't what we do. Like, and when you meet someone, usually they lead with that, "Oh, what is it that you do?" Like, "Daniel, tell me what you do." But what they're really asking you is, "Tell me more about you. I wanna know more about you as a human," because if you told me that you're a personal trainer, it's gonna tell me that you're probably pretty dedicated. You're, a person who cares about other people and getting other people results. It would give me insight into the type of person that you are. Like, do we connect? Do we have the same values? And I think that's really like at the core of it is like we're not what we do. That only plays into like a part of it. It's who we are when we're doing it. Like, it's who we be. I don't know if that's like the
Yeah.
proper way to say it, but it is like truly like who are you? Like, who are you really? Because you're not a doctor, you're not just a personal trainer, you're not just a barista, to my girls at Starbucks, but like you're not just that thing, that, title. We're not our titles. You're not just a wife, you're not just a husband, you're not just a guy from Kentucky. Like, you're so much more than that. And I think that like, a lot of us just disconnect from that. Like, we're so stuck in that hustle, 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 do, 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 that we lose touch with, like, who we are. Like, you ask some people how they're feeling, and they don't even fucking know. They're like
Yeah. Like,
it's crazy because we get so stuck in this, like, zone that it's like people need to just and reconnect, you know?
yeah. And I think it's crazy too, because if you think about like I think it starts so early. Like, you know, if you think about the stage before your job, it's like, oh, what's your major? Or if you think back in like in high school, like what are your extracurricular activities? And then before that, it's kind of the same thing. Like what sports do you play? And like it just kind of goes back down to like what you're doing. And in a way, like you said, I think it's all tied into like your characteristics, your personality, your interests, but it kind of goes to I think um, more of a shallow level of like what you're actually physically doing and not who you are, like how you're doing it kind of thing.
Yeah. It is we do live in a very, like, shallow society. We really do. Like, it just is what it is, but, yeah, I just feel like if so many more people connected with, like, who they actually were, I think they would just change a lot of things for people, like, they would feel so much different, they'd feel so much better, they would get to discover what makes them passionate, and even if you're doing a job that you don't necessarily like, you can do things on the side. You can become things on the side that has nothing to do with your job, and that's where you find your passion and your pleasure. It's not all about the job. I know
Yeah.
that we spend a lot of our time there, but,
Yeah.
you know
It's interesting. um, Kind of getting to your own journey around, was there any was there any particular like reason for making that first move, like why you went to a specific place first, or was it kind of just like, oh, this is kind of the first place on my mind?
well, at the time I was working for Zion's Energy Drinks, and they had openings down in Vegas, and I saw that, and I was like, "Vegas would be fun." Like, City of Lights. I had never been there before. It was, like, totally on a whim. And I found a group of like roommates who were doing stuff like they were doing promotional stuff, and one of them was a teacher, and I just fit in really well with them, and I was like, I'll just move in with them, and my rent was the same down there as it was in Minnesota, and I figured why not give it a try. I'm just such a I don't know, the more I like talk to other people, the more I realize I might be a little crazy because I just don't really like, I didn't even need to visit the place first. I just fantasized about it. Like, I looked online and was like, "Oh my gosh, it excites me." Like, it excited something in me, so I knew that it was for me. And it was like one of the best place I lived. Like, I love Nevada. Like, the mountains, you feel like you're in a like surrounded by a mountain hub because it's just this bowl. And the locals pretty much all know each other. It's a small town in a very busy city. You know, people are always flying in and out, but the people who actually live there and stay there, it's a very small town. Like, that's how it felt. But it's
Interesting.
just I loved it there. It was amazing. So for me, it was just a feeling, like a gut feeling, like this is exciting and there's an opportunity for me. So I took it.
It's interesting you say like it was a gut feeling and like you just got excited about it because I think a lot of people feel that way and then they're like, this must be what everybody feels about this. And it's just kind of like it just stays in that fantasy land instead of being like, maybe it's calling me for a specific reason, like
Yeah.
instead of like just shrugging it off as everybody wants to do this and why would I do it? What's special about me kind of thing. It's like, you know, maybe it's actually calling you for a specific purpose.
I truly believe that, like, what we like, in the Bible, it talks about that too. I don't know if you're, like, biblical or whatever, but it talks about how, like, your desires are safe guidance. Like, that is all about, we all are gonna have different desires. Like, it's why not everyone becomes an Olympian, Like, some people really want that. That's, like, their goal in life. Other people wanna be the best dad they could be. Other people want to be the number one teacher of the year at their elementary school. We all have these like desires inside of us, this something that lights your furnace. Like, and the thing is most people don't act on that. They feel exactly what you said, like they feel that gut pull towards it, that gut instinct towards it. And then they say, well, I don't know. Is that meant for me? I don't know if I could do that. They talk themselves out of it. And when they do that, they're robbing themselves of their dream. Like, that's in you for a reason. If you feel that, like, pull and that tug, unless you have really shitty intuition and you're really off the mark on a lot of things and, like, you go for all the bad boys or the, messed up girls or whatever, like, unless that is the case, chances are it's something that is, like, put in your mind, in your consciousness for a reason. And so when we don't listen to that, it shuts down a part of ourselves that what could have been,
Yeah.
What could have been if I had taken that chance.
Yeah. And it's interesting because before you said something about like whatever you do, do it the best, like do it your way, do it the best you can do it kind of thing. And then, you said that some people just want to be like the best dad, some people want to be the best teacher. Like, and it's interesting now how people can actually make a living or be happier and be more successful, like, increase their whatever just by being the best version of what they're being. Like, these people have YouTube channels where literally it's just about their family and how what they do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And they just, they get whatever they want off that, or they become, the teacher who's become like really famous. I think it's on TikTok maybe, but she's become like really famous and she gets all these different opportunities. And literally there's, hundreds of thousands of other, elementary school teachers out there who can do that can kind of do the same thing or like do something else, like not necessarily the same thing, but also elevate, just by being a better version of what they're being. Like, I think it's so interesting how it can be anybody now.
Well, it's like, you know, I truly see it this way is that people look at the people at the pinnacle, they look at like the 1% of people who are doing what they're doing. And all that's different from that person and whoever's listening to this or whoever's not in the place they want to be is that person made a decision and they were consistent and they didn't give up. Even if it looks like, oh, she made one TikTok video and became famous, she had been working on herself for years prior to that video. And we were chatting before this session, this podcast, and I was talking about how I'd been on YouTube since 2016 making vlogs. And I look back now and they're cringy as hell. Some of them are still up. I deleted a lot of like my videos. but like it was just me and my friends, you know, having fun in Vegas. It was all about my cats and me doing NPC competitions and working as a personal trainer, and it was just my life. And um, you know, it's just I didn't monetize my channel until last year. So from 2016 to 2019, there was 3 years where I just made videos just for the fun of it. Like I came on here because I truly love creating content. I like to show up and create content. And I knew in the beginning, I was like, if I just keep coming on, if I keep coming on, eventually something's going to happen. But I'm not gonna lie, throughout that 3-year process, there were so many times where I wanted to give up and I was like, "Ugh, forget this." And I would take months off. And I think that was the problem was I would take time away from it, but you gotta stay in the fire, you know, you gotta really stay hot in order to make it. And like me being inconsistent caused like it to take longer to manifest or to come about because I kept going in and out. I was shaky in what I wanted to do. And I think if you just really decide and make that decision, and then everything you do is out of that place, eventually you're just gonna be like, it's gonna be autopilot. Like the things you're doing are autopilot. Like these podcasts for you, Daniel, eventually it's like you get to a point where you're like, it's weird to not do the podcast. It's weird to not film the podcast. You almost become like in a way addicted to creating content. And it's like you look forward to it every week. You know, it's you do weekly or are you doing more than weekly?
2 a week.
2 week. Okay, that's a lot. And that's great. My dog's like snoring off to the side, by the way. I have a wiener dog, but
Just another thing. Like
2 a week is that's a lot of content. And it's editing and it's, you know, and sometimes it can get monotonous, like you're doing all the editing and all of that. And it's like it can feel like you're just kind of going through the motions, but you're creating a masterpiece every single time. And I think that's one thing that changed my life was really when I started to look at things as a masterpiece. Every single thing I was infusing myself into. So why not go all out in every single action I was doing? But it is weird to not put out 2 podcasts a week when you start to make that who you are. You know, that's just who you are. You have this podcast and you put out 2 podcasts a week and it just becomes second nature. And so it's like there's nothing holding you back from becoming the number 1 in the fitness category, you know? The only thing that holds us back is our indecision and our inconsistency. That's really it.
yeah, and I think what it really is consistency, but I think like because there's so many people out there who have this potential to be the next, Joe Rogan or whatever, but they don't, but they start and they don't stick with it. And then, like you said, that person that does stick with it in the end, maybe they weren't, end up, if everything played out where the other person stuck with it, maybe they wouldn't be number one. But the fact that you did stick with it, that's part of like, getting to where you want to be is just, and that's definitely something I have not learned, but definitely like been reinforced over this podcast is just like how important showing up is and not just looking at one podcast, one workout and being like, that was really nothing over the span of, because that's kind of how I think a lot of people can get stuck in looking at a lot of things, especially over, wanting to achieve a specific goal over the long term. It's like, you know, it's great that I just completed that workout, but I have so many more to do. It can get overwhelming. So I think if you
Yeah.
just like if you do take it one at a time, but just understand that it takes so many, it's the kind of that combination of that mindset is so important. That's just
Well,
the
like once
consistency.
you get to a certain point, because I was talking about this too. It's so funny that we're talking about this because I was like just talking about this stuff, but it's like once you get to a certain point in the workouts, like when I decided I was like, I'm gonna go pro for NPC. And once I made that decision, it was like my workouts became such habit. Like if I do something like where I'm on the last rep and I don't give it my all, I go back and I redo it because that's what pros do. They don't shortcut anything. You know, if I want to be the best, I got to think about Michael Jordan. You know, I read Tim Grover's books. He's amazing. If you haven't read, Winning is such a good book. He just came out with that one, but I love his first book, which, oh my God, Relentless is the name of it. And in there, he talks about everything with Michael Jordan and how he just had this standard set for him that was like beyond, like it was just next fucking level. Sorry, can I cuss on here?
Yeah.
Okay. It was like next level standard. Like the way that he held himself accountable and everyone around him, it leveled everything up. And so it's like when we have those goals to be the next Joe Rogan, which by the way, you kind of remind me of Joe Rogan. So like just a little bit. Like I kind of
That's
get the
funny.
Joe Rogan vibes. Like, are you smoking weed currently? I'm just kidding. But like, I love Joe Rogan. He's awesome. He has this personality that's so inviting. It's so like you could just listen to him. He's very well spoken. He asks great questions. Like he's such a good interviewer. And I've heard so much bad stuff about him, and I'm like, I don't care what anyone says. I fucking love Joe Rogan. I think he is just very skilled at what he does, and you can tell he has so much passion for what he does. And I'm not gonna say anyone can be, a Joe Rogan. Like, you definitely have to have some sort of charisma and some sort of confidence. You can't come on here and be like, "Oh, hello, guys." I mean, you
Yeah.
may have an audience who's into ASMR or something that's like, you're always gonna find your niche. Like, if you come on and you're like super, super like science nerd out, you're not gonna be for a lot of people, but the people you are for are gonna fucking love you. You know what I'm saying? And so
Right.
there's the people who are a little bit more wide span. I think Joe Rogan's a little more wide span, where he's a little more neutral. And then there's the super niche people who maybe have like a million followers, but they're so like dialed into what they do that their following is so loyal that they wouldn't even think to go anywhere else because they're like,
Right.
that is the person. So with the workout, it can look overwhelming when you think about, oh my gosh, I have this many workouts until my show, or I have this many workouts until my goal. But when that just becomes part of what we do, like when we just wake up at 4 a.m. to get that workout in, or we go after work or whatever, it becomes just part of who you are. And so it's not this whole big thing in your head where you're like, gotta go to the gym, gotta drink my pre-workout, blah, 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 blah. It's just like, oh, like autopilot. And then you see the goal a year later and you're like, holy shit, how did I get here? Like, is this unreal? What just happened? But really, it was just your habits that created that and
Yeah.
your consistency.
Yeah. That's like I said, that's just been one of the most, like I said, I think on this podcast, actually, at one point I said, consistency is my goal for just the foreseeable future, just whatever. Like it doesn't matter what I want to do. Of course I'll set, other kind of a little bit more specific goals and like do what I want to do in those ways. But like, it doesn't matter what I do, because if I just keep doing it, like that's the only thing that right now that is important to me, is just like getting it done, and actually staying on task. And I think I definitely, I was struggling with that throughout, quarantine, and, starting probably even a little bit before, just starting to kind of slide, but like definitely March through probably, you know, at least I would say, 6 or 7 months, just like, and I guess it's just a lot of people did too, just getting weird habits and weird schedules and all these different things. But like, yeah, I don't know. I think maybe that was, who knows, maybe that's the whole point of doing this podcast, was just to hear that single message, and that's what elevates it. But I don't, that just has been so big over the last year, probably.
I think what we went through was just no one expected it, It was a weird, weird time. Like, and it's an interesting thing when we go through something like as a collective like that, where it's literally everything shut down, and it's almost like a lot of people shut down. It's like once, our normal life comes to a screeching halt, it gives us an introspection. So there's a period of time where it's like you almost turn inward and you're like, what am I doing? And sometimes this can create a feeling of like unease. And that's when people seek out things like, oh, I'm going to binge watch Netflix and eat. And don't get me wrong, I definitely had nights of that, like have a glass of wine, whatever. But it's like that was a really interesting time for everybody. And I think that a lot of people came out of it stronger, mentally stronger, physically stronger. And then other people came out of it and they're like, I'm not really happy with where I'm at, but that's okay. Like it's not, there's no right or wrong. It's like this is a time for you to now pivot forward and maybe make changes that you want to make or grow in ways you want to grow. And like there's no right or wrong. It's just it was what it was. And it's like, now what are you gonna do from here on out? Like what's the next game plan? What's the next level?
I think it's definitely a huge mindset game. Everything is, no matter, what you're doing, if it's physical or mental, it's just, it starts up top. without a doubt.
Yeah. It
But
really does.
getting kind of into your own fitness, like where did that begin? Was that something that as a kid you were kind of getting into, or was that more of when you were starting to make more moves? Like when did you really get that
I
interest?
always loved sports. Like, as a kid, I was a dancer, so I did ballet, tap, jazz, but I wasn't very flexible. So eventually I got booted out of the dance room. I played violin for 9 years. So I played at orchestra hall, like I was first violin. And then I had a major fuck up on stage at a church concert. And it was a duet with my sister. So when you mess up in a duet, there's no recovering. Like you can't fake it till you make it. It's your people hear you stop playing and you're just I was standing there frozen like deers in headlights. And that was a moment that kind of created this shift, a downward spiral for me. So I'll rewind though, like beginning of like when I first started school, I was such a like kid that I'm always curious. Like I'm a very curious person. I want to sample everything. I want to try everything. In sports, I found a really healthy happiness in sports. I love soccer. I played soccer like my entire life. I was a forward because I'm very petite and I can run fast. So I was a forward. Hated playing defense. Like that was just not a good.
Nobody's
Um,
favorite.
I'm more of like let me just break in and like so. I actually ended up playing rugby, so I ended up going into rugby. Loved that. I've just been athletic. Like I played softball. I've just done different sports, and I liked weight training. So being in a team, it's like you're kind of capped at what the team can do. And when I discovered weight training in summer of my freshman year, so this was we were training with the football players, and I think his name was Jenkins. He was a coach. He was awesome. I remember he played the song "Shake Your Tail Feather." Do you remember that by Nelly?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like his jam. He played it every single day in the weight room. And we would all like listen to that song and get all like pumped up and we do our, sets and stuff. And I remember just being such a little baby when it came to weight training. Like he was like, "Come on, Celia, like do one more set." And I'm like, "I'm so fatigued." But then like as I got older, I'm like finding the next I'm like, "Okay, I want to dig deeper. I want to push harder." And then this something switched on me when that whole thing happened with violin and my world kind of came crashing down and I'm like, "What the heck? Who am I?" And I literally dyed my hair black. I went through this like punk rock phase. It was really weird. It's really awful. Anyone who has pictures, burn them, please. But like I went through this phase and then it was like I just was so lost. I didn't know who I was. And fitness kept coming back up for me. And I ended up eventually working for GNC. I've worked for Complete Nutrition. I've worked in the nutrition field for a really long time. I'm certified holistic nutrition. I'm also a fitness nutrition specialist through NASM. I'm a personal trainer. And I just had this love and passion for taking people mentally and physically to their next level. And it just really started with that whole personal development and realizing our body is a reflection of what's going on inside. Like when we are sound on the inside, typically things tend to shift on the outside. Things change on the outside. And so it just was this huge awakening for me. And I'm like, I love it. Like no matter how much I try and get away from fitness, it always creeps back into my life. It's like a lifelong passion that I just can't break free from. Like it's something that I think I'll always forever be in.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how like it does kind of become in not like in a negative way or like that, anything like that, because I think it can be seen as a negative way, but like it becomes a part of who you are. And it's so much like, yeah, I think there's that negative stereotype behind like people who are like maybe on the outside looking in, they see like fitness as this thing where it's like, oh, you have to do this, you have to do your macros, you have to do, you only get to eat this stuff, or oh, you must, go to the gym every day, you must, run every day, whatever like that stereotype is. But once you like get into it and it's like a healthy habit and you kind of understand what you really need to do from a healthy standpoint, it just kind of like becomes who you are, like not another version of yourself, but like just like a different version in a way. Like it's kind of hard to explain unless like you really have kind of like been through it, but it's completely different than I guess, any I guess there's really any stereotype out there, like the stereotypical musician or stereotypical whoever. Like that's not necessarily who they are, but like that fitness stereotype I think is just like so ingrained in people like that that,
Yeah.
that aren't in it. It's just to me it's just so weird once you actually do get into it, how it's just becomes so natural and normal to you.
Well, and there's no one way to do fitness. Like, there's no one way to diet or anything like that. It's like there's so many different ways to eat healthier. And, you know, it's funny because like I took time off from the whole fitness world when I was, starting my career. I was a makeup artist for MAC Cosmetics, and I took time off from working out. And then I remember there was a day where I went into GNC, got a pre-workout, took it when I got home, and like had the best workout of my entire life. Like, you know how it feels
Yeah.
when you take a new pre-workout. I think it was Jack 3D before they changed the formula. It was like the old school shit. Like the stuff that like you take it and you're like, let me do everything. And I don't were you a Jack 3D fan? Have you ever taken it?
No, I haven't.
It's legal meth. That's basically what it is. So you take it and you're just like wired. Like you're just whoa. And so and anyone who's listening to this is gonna laugh when they hear about the Jack Fruity because it was like such a thing. Like all old school bodybuilders were just like taking it like it was candy. It was so crazy. So I took that and then was like working out, had the best workout ever. And I remember in the beginning, my workouts were fueled by some weird anger. Like it was like I was going through a bad relationship. I had a weird relationship with food. Like it was just a really weird time where like nothing was really going right. So it was like my little outlet where I was like angry. And then it started to become a very peaceful thing, And I think that's kind of what you're talking about is when it starts to become who you are. But it's like there's something so beautiful about it. Like I built a full community off of it. I joined a gym. I joined Lifetime Athletic in Bloomington, the north location. And it was really close to my house, and I went there every single waking second that I wasn't at work, and that was my, like, home away from home. Like, I built a full community and had amazing people in my life in the fitness community, and I think it builds a confidence and a collaboration that's unlike any other. Like, the women that you meet in the NPC are so supportive. Well, I'm not gonna generalize and say everyone is because that's not true, but for the majority, it's like you just get to a point where you just feel so like it's almost like a sisterhood. It's like and the guys are very much the same way with each other where they're like bros, and it's like they see each other at the gym. It's just a very positive community. It's a very positive community. And that's why, when I see people who are brand new to the gym and people tend to make fun of new people at the gym or whatever because they're doing things wrong or whatever it may be, it always like annoys me because it's like those people are there to make a change. And I just think that's such an amazing, incredible first step on their journey. So it's like if you see someone at the gym who's just getting started and they don't know what they're doing and you do know what you're doing, go and help them. Like, I mean, you don't have to be like weird about it or whatever, but you know, talk to them. Be like, hey, I haven't seen you around here before. Are you new? And if you get to talking, then hey, let me show you like a cool way to do that same thing or whatever if you feel comfortable with it. But again, don't make it weird and don't be forceful. But sometimes people do need that little extra bit of help and they're scared to ask for it. So I always tend to make that a point is like meeting everyone in the gym. I like to just be friends with people. And so I just think it's a great community.
Isn't it? I think it's so weird how like the gym is that, and there might be a few other places like it, but name another place that you go into and you don't know what to do. Like if you when you first go in, you just don't know what to do. Like you can't like you go to the store, you go to the grocery store, you pick out the food, you go to the register, you go to the library, you pick out a book and you go check it out. Or like you go, to the office, where you sit, where the bathroom is. Like the gym is like I feel like it's just one of those few places you actually go into. And once you do the only thing you know how to do, which is like walk in the door, you're pretty much like, what? Like you just don't know what to do. You need somebody's help or you need some kind of like information to move forward from there. I think it's just like such a unique place, really. It's like it's more than a place though. If you really think about it, it's just like this experience.
Thank God for Google and thank God for YouTube because you can learn how to use any equipment from those. But yeah, it is a very unique place. It's amazing once you get involved in it and you start to learn, how to move your body and all that. It's such a great experience.
And it's really, I think I've talked about on here before. I'm sure I have, but just that anxiety that you can get, not just like some people. I feel like everybody at some point gets a little bit of anxiety from going to the gym, and it's just like, it's so interesting to me that this place can cause that. It's definitely, I think, a very unique thing.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, especially when people are like staring at you or, and you're brand new to the gym or something. It's just I could see that. Yeah, definitely.
So what caused you to want to actually compete? Like, when did you get serious about, oh, I really like actually, like this workout thing and I want to take it to the next level?
So back when I was working at GNC, everyone was saying you should compete, you should compete. And I like to work out just to work out. I didn't want to do anything really with it. I saw, like Jenna Renee Fit was on all the covers back then and she's gorgeous. And what's her name? Oh my gosh, Jamie Eason. Do you remember Jamie Eason?
Not off the top of my head, I don't.
She has short blonde hair and she was like on every single muscle and fitness magazine. And I just remember thinking, maybe this is my next step. Like, I think I want to do a competition. So I started training for competitions and I just was like training for them. I didn't have one picked out, I didn't have a coach. I was just kind of doing my own thing. 2012, I finally hired my own coach. And then I actually broke my arm, and so I couldn't compete for the rest of the year. So I took time off. And then in 2014, I started prepping again and ended up competing 2015 14 to 15, and then I got autoimmune in 2018. So I took some time off in between. um Something happened where I just lost touch with the competing world, and then I came back with this vengeance for wanting to just better myself in every way because I went through a period of 2018 to 2020. It was like 2020 actually when I started getting better. So I actually had lost, like, it was 3 years of my life I had lost to autoimmune. So I was laying in bed, I was bedridden. It was really a tough time for me, mentally, physically, everything. And I remember thinking if I get through this, I want to do something great with my life. I'm not going to just let my dreams go to waste. And one of my dreams was always to be an IFBB. And so I started training into, what was it, 2020? Yeah, I started training 2020 for 2021 shows. And my first show back completely bombed it. I was like last place. And it was just such a driver for me because I was still dealing with some autoimmune stuff that was like kind of lagging. And then I cut grains and dairy out of my diet completely. And then my autoimmune completely went away. My blood works perfect. No sign of autoimmune. And from there, I was like, now I know I'm ready. Like, I don't have anything holding me back, not on any medications, nothing crazy. And so I can really go full forward with my goals. And so I'm just pushing my body to see what I can do with it, like how much I can do with this body because it's a gift. It truly is a gift. Like, people who haven't lost their health don't know the gift of the body. Like, maybe they do, but when you're really sick, you realize you've taken so much for granted. And I never want to do that again. I want to really live this life full out. And the body is like a masterpiece. You can sculpt it, you can create it to be whatever you want it to be. And so for me, like, I saw my downfalls in the last prep, and I know that what I was doing was not aligned with where I wanted to go, but I also had a lot of stuff I was working on, and so it's like, now I see it in such a clear path, and it's like, just stick to the plan, like, every single day, my plan is perfectly executed. Like, me and my coach were laughing this morning because I sent him a screenshot where I adjust my macros for the day in the morning, like, in the beginning of the day or the night before, and they were perfectly spot on for every single one. Like, not 1 gram of protein was higher or lower. It's like everything was perfectly flush across the board, and I'm like, "This is the type of athlete I wanna be. I wanna be right on the money every single time. Like, whatever you tell me to do, like, I'm gonna do it." And that's just how our relationship is. He's a great coach. He's amazing. I cannot recommend him enough.
I think it's interesting. I heard it a while back, and hearing you say what you said, it makes me think like when you when you're just training for something and you have a goal in mind, but you don't like take that like initial step to really commit yourself to it, you don't, even if you think you are or you really want to, you can't like push to that next level until you like sign up for that first competition or sign up for that race. Like I had that kind of experience. I signed up for a marathon, and at that point I was just like, well, I'm in it now. Before that, there's no way I could have, ran 5 days a week when I literally didn't run, but but run to maybe like run to the bathroom or something. But like it takes your mindset to a whole nother level, kind of like you're saying, how you just like do whatever it takes and like make whatever adjustments. And in a way, it's kind of like, or at least for me, it was like kind of doubly motivating. It was like I want to achieve this, but I'm also terrified that if I don't do this when I actually have to go to perform, I'm gonna like not necessarily like fail or become like do last like be in last place, but I'm going to literally just not physically be capable of doing it. So it's kind of like that double motivation of that was like pushing me forward. But I never would have got that unless I actually signed up. And I think that's such a big step. If somebody wants to do it, just take that step of signing up or whatever it is. And I think the motivation is just like immediate.
Well, it's the decision, right? Like you made that decision in that moment. You committed. You have money on the line. I'm sure you have to pay to be in marathons.
Yeah.
So it's like you're putting weight in the game, you're putting something in, so it's like you're gonna push harder. And by the way, congrats on your marathon. How'd you do?
Thank you. I finished 5 hours, 51 minutes and 51 seconds.
Dang.
I was
Were your toes completely like busted and crusted?
my feet weren't bad. It was my knees, but they weren't as bad as they could have been. So I'm thankful I learned through training what I needed to do. So I was actually up and, not running, but up and movable in about a day and a half, 2 days. So,
Wow.
thankful for, I think also just being active in the past and knowing how to eat and all those things definitely help. But yeah, it's definitely one of like those experiences that even as bad as it was like during it, like as much misery I was in, I would never, change it.
I kind of want to do a marathon. I Okay, so like have you like heard of David Goggins?
Oh yeah.
I'm sure because you're a
Yeah.
runner.
Yeah.
So you know how he ran like 100 miles in the desert, like just because, like
Just because that's his thing.
he's a
Just
crazy motherfucker. He inspires me. He's a cool dude, but like
he's insane though. Yeah.
oh, it's so insane. Like he's next level. Like he's just and he's funny because he's never really prepared. Like if you listen to his book, he's like, yeah, I went out there, but I didn't bring this. And you're
That's
just
how I
like,
kind of felt. I gave myself like 2 months to train. So
really?
I
It's
guess
so
I
funny
kind of,
because he doesn't even like he's kind of like me in a way where he doesn't plan for he's just like, I'm in. Like, he doesn't like it's not like he's packing the bags for the trip. He's just like, I'm in, let me show up.
yeah, I'll figure
And
it
I
out.
think he's a certain type of breed for sure. And it's amazing to watch someone like that. It's amazing to listen to someone like that. But yeah, like a marathon, you look at that in comparison with 100-mile run and you're like, oh, this is doable.
Yeah.
But then when you're in it, you're like, ooh, what did I sign up for? Like,
It definitely is a lot of perspective. Like when I was even doing it, I was thinking like people do ultra marathons all the time. I can finish this. I can finish this. Like it even as something as physical as that, I think what I tell people is if you're not literally anyone, but if you're in shape whatsoever, you could do a marathon right now. Like you just have to decide to take the next step. That was my biggest thing is like physically I don't want to, but mentally I know I can.
dude, I'm gonna do a marathon next weekend.
Just
I'm just
do
kidding.
it. If you decide to do a marathon next weekend, I'll freaking do it too, just to prove a
I was gonna say,
point.
you want to do it virtually? Like, we'll just do a marathon and like I'll text you and be like, hey, I'm at
Mile
mile 10.
18.
Where
Yeah.
are you at?
Yeah, for sure. Like I feel like that would be kind of cool just to like prove, hey, and there's no way of like knowing that I didn't actually train, but like just to show people that it really is like everything is mental. I feel like it's just how
So
you
is.
get over those barriers.
What is the quote? It's like your mind quits before your body does.
Or yeah,
Like,
the other way around. Your body quits before your mind does, right? Your body quits. Yeah, your
no, I'm
body.
pretty sure it's your mind quits before your body because
Oh
it's
yeah,
all
that's right.
mental.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
That's
we
right.
were onto something. Like we we were onto something, but Yeah, it's your mind quits before your body does. And like you challenged that and you see that now, like you pushed yourself past the point where you thought you could go. And it's like you're proving to yourself, you're hardwiring in your own brain. Every time you do something like that, you're hardwiring the possibility that there's so much more you can do and that you've stopped short in the past. And so going forward, you're gonna fucking nail it because it's like you are proving to yourself that you can do anything you want. And it's proof, like you have the proof that
Right.
you have done it in the past. And so that's really, really cool that you just went in and decided, let's run this thing. Let's run
Yeah.
this
I
marathon.
think, yeah, I think to me it kind of was that. I was like proving and trying to like, not necessarily, I don't have like a following or anything, but like just whoever, like whoever sees or hears about it, like just knows that it's possible. I think that's so important to kind of have that deeper purpose. For me, at least for me, it was to kind of have a deeper meaning behind doing something like that. It was important.
What made you sign up for it?
Really, I just think I like to do extreme things. So like one day I just decided I wanted to skydive, so I signed up, and it was December, and I didn't even think about it, but it was December. It actually got canceled until June for whatever reason. But I just, hey, I want to skydive, and I did it that night. I literally signed up that night. I made the decision, and the next thing I did, probably about a year later, was the marathon. I was like, this sounds like something I can't do, or like probably no one thinks I can do, or like it seems like a hard thing to do. So I want to like do it. So that same night I signed up and I did it. Like I guess there's just something in me that just wants to do things that other people think they can't do.
It was really cool. I love that. Like skydiving, my mind's blown. My husband skydives. Like he's done it probably 1,000 times. To me, I'm scared of heights. Like you'd have to push me out of that plane and I'd be so mad at you. Like I heard the fall. Here's my thing is I love roller coasters. Like all day, every day. Take me to Universal. We have like annual passes. I love roller coasters. Like I love the Hulk. We're gonna go on the Velocicoaster. I'll let you know how it is. It's
All right.
like crazy. Like go to YouTube after this and watch the point of view from the Velocicoaster. It's crazy. It goes up and down, it spins upside down, and it's crazy, man. Like just crazy. But when it comes to falling out of an airplane, that feeling of just dropping, like where your stomach is like up through your and it's like feels like it's gonna come out of your mouth or like pop through your brain. Like that feeling is like a feeling I can't get behind. But maybe I just need to like try it again. It's been a while since I've done something that just drops straight down.
It's
Like
a
maybe I
different
should
drop
do
though. It's a different
it's
drop.
okay, explain.
It's like, and it's probably different if you do it and do it and do it. But for me, it was like not slow motion, but I've done some I've jumped off a few like some cliffs and stuff like that. I've done that, and that's like quick. That's fast. Like, and it is fast when you jump out of a plane. But to me, it was almost like the air was like a thicker substance to where I was like, and maybe it's just because I was twisting and everything, like I was flipping and doing all this other stuff. But something about it just wasn't the same, because I hate that feeling in your stomach when you like have dreams about that feeling, and it's just terrible. But it just wasn't the same. And maybe like I said, it was just because I was new at it, and I didn't, I was actually like in my own head a little bit more and like taking it from different perspective. But it's just like it's just for some reason it's different, and it's like you're a part of like the planet a little bit more. You're not like a part of humanity. You're just like almost
So
like
you're an
you're
alien falling through space.
it's like you're not even like you're not in space, because that's not like it, but you're just it like when you fall and you're free falling, it's just a different connection. I don't know, it's weird. Like it's definitely a different connection with your, because like you don't even see the ground. Like you just don't know where it is. Like you literally don't know where the ground is, because you're just out there turning and twisting and flipping and everything. So I don't know.
Hmm.
I, I would definitely recommend it from a perspective of, if you like or if you don't like heights, this is not a height thing. It's not a height thing at all to me. Like I don't dislike heights, but if I'm up high, I can definitely like get a little feeling about it. This was not a heights thing. So like don't let that feeling hold you back.
So, were you a person who had to be kicked out of the airplane or did you jump?
I didn't actually jump. I sat on the edge. So like
Mm.
we went up. I don't know how common this is or if, like whatever, but we went up. It was me and my friend. She was behind me. And I was literally just looking out the door the whole time. The plane was like basically just circling up, going in circles, getting higher and higher. But the door, they kept the door open. Like I was just sitting beside the door. I could see us, rising in altitude the whole time. And
Did
then
you feel
we
scared? Did you have like
no,
butterflies?
the dude was like kind of scared about me because I was showing no emotion, and he was like, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm cool. Like at this point, I'm just here for the ride. I'm ready to just do this thing because something I really wanted to do." But yeah, I think he was a little nervous, like that I was
Well,
there.
that's kind of like a true fuck it mentality, you know? You're just
I
like,
was 100% there for whatever reason. I was just like, if I don't, because here's the thing about skydiving, you get the experience, you get like 99% of the experience, whether your chute goes or not. So, like, as weird as that sounds, like, name another experience where if you don't like completely succeed, you get the experience. But with skydiving, of course, you would probably die. I actually know a guy who didn't die when his parachutes didn't open, but you would
wait,
probably
what?
die.
And you still did it?
Well, I didn't know him at that point.
Uh,
I didn't know him at that point, but yeah, it is. It's like, just whatever. Like at this point, it has to be something that you're just kind of in the mindset of you can't really be like shaking and freaking out, or I don't think you get the same experience out of it.
Hang on, I'm writing a book called Daniel Flirts with Death. I'll be right back. I'm just kidding.
I
No,
don't
that
know.
sounds it sounds really cool. Like it sounds like such an incredible experience. And I mean, it's been on my mind and I think, here's the thing. I love roller coasters now, but when I was younger and at like my parents could tell you all about this, but I was deathly afraid of roller coasters. Like deathly. You couldn't pay me to go on a roller coaster. Like, hey Celia, here's $1,000. No, here's $1,000,000. Oh, I really
Probably
want the
not.
money, but I probably won't do it. I hated roller coasters. I think I peed my pants one time, like when I was like 3. Like when my parents wanted me to go, or I don't know how old I was. Obviously, I was tall enough to go on the roller coaster, so this is even more embarrassing. But it was like I just was so scared of them. I was so scared of them, and it's like now I'm like fearless. Like I actually feel calmer on a roller coaster than I do in real life, which is so weird. Like I think it's the
It's like the
adrenaline.
opposite of adrenaline.
So my podcast is called Overly Caffeinated, and I'm the poster child for someone who is chronically overly caffeinated and loving every second of it. And so I think for me, it like when I'm on a roller coaster, the adrenaline is like I don't think I have adrenaline on a roller coaster. I think my adrenaline's all the time. So when I get on a roller coaster, it's just like we like this
Levitating.
is like this is how it feels to be like normal. It's so weird. I don't know how to describe it, but I love the feeling.
Back to kind of your competing adventures and all that good stuff. So, getting into like maybe a deeper sense of competing, like, is it something like competing as far as just doing it? Do you think that's something that everybody can do, or do you think that competing is just maybe for specific people?
I think anyone can do it and anyone can do it. Like all you have to do is sign up to do it and you don't even have to get a coach to do it. But if you want to be next level, there's some things that are required and some non-negotiables. And so I think, you know, I think a lot of girls try it out for 1 or 2 shows. Like I talk a lot about the flash in the pan. Like people come, they're there for 1 to 2 shows. Some girls make pro and then they're gone forever. The people who really stick around are people like Ashley Kaltwatzer. She's number 1 in wins in bikini, 3 times Miss Olympia, and she just got her 27th win, pro win, first place. She her coach gave her his car because
Wow.
he's a great coach, Adam Bonilla. But like she is someone who I think is a perfect example of what the IFBB bikini pro is. She's someone who does it in a healthy way. It's a lifestyle for her. After she wins a show, she doesn't go out and party and eat all the brownies. Like she may have like one teeny little bite of one, but it's not a food addiction. Like for her, her addiction is to winning. She's the Michael Jordan of bikini. She really is. Like, I look at her and I listen to her speak, and I've seen her at shows, and the way she focuses and just her dedication to the sport is so next level, and it's why she is where she is. Like, you see any pro at that level, they're there for a reason. It's not a mistake, and it's not because they took a shortcut or whatever, and it's definitely not because they're sleeping with judges or anything crazy like that. It's because they've showed up, they've taken the feedback, and they've made tweaks, and they've moved forward with those adjustments. They've listened, they've perfected. To them, this is not just a competition, it's so much more. It's like, I don't know how to quite explain it, but it's like this is their life. And this is something that they're so passionate about. And it's almost like they define what this industry is. And so I think it's setting the bar so high, and it's setting the industry standard so high. And it's such a great thing. And I really love seeing that. Nothing against people who come and they do one or two shows, or they come and they try it out, whatever. I've seen stuff like on Testosterone Nation. I don't know if you follow them. Do you follow them?
I don't.
Okay, well, they're kinda hardcore, they're very meathead guys, which I love the old school bodybuilders, like, I love everybody, like, as long as you're a cool person, you're respectful, like, you're good in my book. Well, it's funny because 'cause they're, like, saying they're like, "Don't even fucking compete if this and that," and, they're very much like, be there to win, but that's not always why people are there, people have their own reasons, and they're allowed to be there, it's not. I know that a lot of people complain that the stage gets clogged up and whatever, but this could be the thing that changes that person's life to then go on to become an IFBB, and then to go on and, win Olympias. But it's like maybe they just need that first time experience, and maybe it's not perfect, and maybe it's kind of raw and whatever. And then from there, it's like things shift and change. And so I think that anyone can do this. And I think it changes who you are when you do it.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So it's not an elitist thing, but if you want to get to elite levels, you do have to do certain things. Like there's certain habits that you have at those levels.
Gotcha. So yeah, and it seems kind of like it's so open to where you get like the YMC basketball players with like the Division 1 college basketball players kind of all in the same boat. So it's like I could see where it would be a little frustrating for some people, but also at the same time, like I said, some people just need that initial that initial go at it to really spark it.
Jump in the water, like jump in the water. It's like I'm not a marathoner, but next weekend I could totally run a marathon and I probably come in last place. And like, but had they said, oh, marathoning isn't for everybody, you're shutting off an entire group of people who may find their passion within what it is that, who knows, maybe I go and do a marathon and I'm like, buy bikini, that would never happen, but like, and then I become the next marathon. You just don't like, I don't like when people shut down something and say it's only for a certain type of people, because that's not true. Like, we're allowed to evolve, we're allowed to adapt, we're allowed to change, and we're allowed to discover new things. And sometimes it just takes that experimentation, And so I'm a huge proponent of letting people experience life full out. And I think that bikini and bikini is the entry level. It's the thinnest you're probably going to be. You're pretty teeny. Um, but it's not a ton of muscle, It's the girls have muscle, and it's definitely gotten more muscular over the years, but it's not jacked. You're not looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's not the division. And so it's called an entry level division. Some girls go on to do figure, which is the next level up. And then some girls go on to do wellness, which is a new division. It's more bottom heavy. So you see a lot of those girls on Instagram with the huge booties. That's more their division. I actually fit more wellness than I do bikini, but I love bikini, so I'm gonna stick with bikini. Um, and then you see from there, there's physique, I believe, and then there's bodybuilding, and it goes on from there. But everyone has their spot, and it's just about finding where you like to be. I know a lot of girls who transitioned from bikini to figure. I know a ton of girls who are going to wellness, like a lot of girls. And then there's people like Ashley Kaltwalter who have been doing the same thing for, years and years and years, and they fucking dominate because they know that niche in and out. They know bikini in and out. And so it's like you can find your space in the bodybuilding world if it's something you're passionate about, just jump in.
But it kind of sounds like, the world of fighting, how you have these different divisions and you can kind of move around and conquer each one, or like, hey, try this out and then move back down. I think that's such an interesting route, like, because a lot of people don't know too much about it. It's just like there's definitely, I think, a huge stigma around competing and around the people who, that stereotype of people who do compete. And um, but I think just learning more about it, like it really does sound like, um, I mean, it's not that I didn't think it before, like know it before, but it just sounds like there's just so many good people, like so many people out there who are doing it and are great at it, maybe, but they're also just like, they're more than that. They're people. They have these different interests and different personalities and different things. I think we kind of get stuck in like kind of like get circling back to the first time we talked about like, oh, you do this, so this is kind of who you are, kind of thing.
You will find a lot of really incredible people in like the show world. Like they're there to lift each other up. It's not you're competing against these girls, but in all reality, like a lot of us are just friends, Like there's not that cattiness, there's not that bitterness. Like if a girl wins like above you, like a lot of people are like, especially at the pro level, like you see it a lot more. The sportsmanship is really strong in the community, and it's just a very healthy way to be in a community. The sportsmanship is everything. So, like in a lot of sports, there's really good sportsmanship. It's in it in this community too. It's a very individualized sport. It can be very lonely, and we understand that as competitors. Like, I don't take any time off. Like, I'm in improvement season right now. I'm working with my coach, but we're not taking any time off. We're building more muscle in this improvement season. And so it's like, it is a little lonely. Like, I have a friend who's coming out here and I'm like, "Are you okay with my training schedule? Are you okay with my diet?" Like, it's very dialed in lifestyle. And if you're not okay with that, it's hard. I can't be like going out drinking till 2 a.m. That does not fit into my waking up early for cardio or, like
Yeah, it's definitely a different level of commitment and like understanding from those around you.
it's a lot of discipline. And yeah, it is a lot of it will test your relationships at certain times, but it's all worth it.
Yeah, and it sounds like, anything really, like you get dedicated to something, or you have this project you really are interested in and you work long hours at it, you get up early and you do it, and it's just, whatever it is that you're interested in, whatever it is that your passion is, like if you do want it, that's what you're gonna have to do. That's what you're kind of gonna have to put in. And that doesn't mean, you can't enjoy the route along the way, because that's, I think, the most important part is like the process, but you also have to be in the process. You have to commit to it.
I remember like what you're saying, this just kind of brings up something for me is like, so I do real estate. I also run a YouTube channel. I also run a podcast. And then I do what else? I do so much stuff. But it's like I remember people saying that's way too much stuff. You're gonna feel overwhelmed. Well, I compete, so there's that too. And then I have a cookie business. So it's like I do a lot of stuff, but it's like first off, the cookie business, I'm totally like half-assing that right now. It's not a priority. And I'm just gonna be honest about that. I'm very blunt about that because it's just not a priority. But everything else in my life, like you can do a lot more than you think you can do. Like I may not be watching Netflix, I may not be wasting time doing whatever, whatever. And I don't get out a lot. Like I don't see a lot of friends all the time, but like I see them at the gym. Like that's kind of my where you can find me. But it's like you got to decide what you want out of life. Like I knew I wanted to do podcasts. I knew I wanted to do YouTube, and I could quit on myself and be like, this is too much. I'm going to drop something. But why? Like, why do that to yourself? So it's like, if you've made that commitment, like see how you can follow that through. There's always a little extra time that you can do something. There's always going to be something you can move around. There's always going to be a way to make it happen. And this is where the resourcefulness comes in. And it's like, yes, I can find a way to do that. Yes, I can switch this around or delegate this or whatever. And you can make it happen.
Yeah, and it reminds me of this guy I was talking to a while back here on the podcast. He said something about like go hard when you can go hard because you aren't always going to be able to do that. And he was referring to like workouts, but really it goes kind of goes into what you were saying too. Just like you have this opportunity, this time in your life, and it's there for the taking, and just do it. Don't take a rest day if you don't need it, kind of thing. Like, yes, rest days are important, but don't just rest when you don't need to rest, kind of thing.
Double down. Yeah,
Yeah,
double down. Mhm.
absolutely. Well, I think it's a good place to wrap things up for the night. But yeah, it was great talking to you. It was a good time though. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.